Guten Tag, meine Freunde. Welcome to the next part of my adventures learning German with Duolingo. So, for today's video, we're going to look at these two sections, Accusative Case and Introductions. So, I think I mentioned in a previous video that the accusative cases is a big grammar point in German, and we're going to get a nice light introduction to them in here with the accusative case. So let's take a look at the notes and see what they say. Here we are. So German cases. In English, the words he and I can be thought of can be used as subjects, the ones doing the action in a sentence, and they change to him and me when they are objects, the ones that the action is applied to. So here's an example. So I see him, subject, verb, object. It's what most basic sentences in English go like, and then he sees me, etc. So this is called a grammatical case. The same word changes its form depending on its relationship to the verb. In English, only pronouns have cases. In German, most words other than verbs, such as nouns, pronouns, and adjectives, have cases. So you'll learn more about cases later, but for now, you just need to understand the difference between the two simplest cases, nominative and accusative. So the subject of the sentence, the one doing the action, is in the nominative case. So when we say die Frau spielt, the woman plays, die Frau is in the nominative. So just think of that as the subject of the verb. So the accusative object is the thing or person that is directly receiving the action. For example, in Der Mann sieht den Ball, the man sees the ball. Der Mann is the nominative subject, and den Ball is the accusative object. For the articles, the nominative and accusative are nearly the same, only masculine forms change. So here is an example. So for the indefinite articles, nominative eine for masculine, neuter, and feminine. But for the accusative, it's einen for masculine, ein for neuter, and eine for feminine. And when it comes to the word for the, in the definite articles, nominative is der, die, or der, das, die for masculine, neuter, feminine, and plural. And same neuter, feminine, plural, das, die, but the masculine changes to den. Next, flexible sentence order. The fact that most words in German are affected by the case explains why the sentence order is more flexible than in English. For example, you can say Das Mädchen hat den Apfel, the girl has the apple, or den Apfel hat das Mädchen. In both cases, den Apfel, the apple, is the accusative object, das Mädchen is the subject, always nominative. So, that would only work if you made a distinction that the object, I guess that would only really work in the with masculine nouns, because any other ones it would be confused. Sorry, I'm just overanalyzing here. However, take note that in German the verb always has to be in position 2. If something other than the subject takes up position 1, the subject will then move after the verb. So this is another big grammar point. So in English you would say, normally, I drink water. But in German, if you start the sentence with something like an adverb, in here normalerweise, normally, then the verb must come next. So normalerweise trinke ich Wasser. So that's another big grammar point to point out. Vowel changes in some verbs. So a few common verbs change the vowel and the second and third person singular. This is what's sometimes called, when I was learning German, it was what they called weak, strong, and mixed verbs. But really just means like regular and irregular verbs. So here's a verb without a vowel change. Ich trinke. We've had this. I think we've had this one in previous ones. Ich trinke, du trinkst, der sie es trinkt, wir trinken, ihr trinkt, sie trinken. And here are oops, that one went too far. So, and here are three verbs with a vowel change. Notice that in the first two verbs, the second and third person seems the same. So sorry, and here are three verbs with that vowel change. Note that in first two verbs, the second and third person singular seems the same. This is just because the do ending st is merged with the s of the stem verb stem. This is unrelated to the vowel change. So yeah, just what that means here, because there's already an s at the end of what would be the stem of the verb. You wouldn't add an extra s in the second person section. So lesen is to read. So ich lese, du liest, sie es liest, wir lesen, ihr lest, sie lesen. So yeah, if you do come across irregular verbs, the likelihood is that the only bits that be irregular in the present tense would be the second and third person singular section. And here's another example. Sprechen, to speak. Ich spreche. Du sprichst. Sie es spricht. Wir sprechen. Ihr sprecht. Sie sprechen. And another example here. Similarly, essen turns to du isst or isst. Sometimes you might see that written. A double S is sometimes represented by a letter called the est set, which looks like a B, like a sort of a cursive B, or just a really fancy written B if you're that way inclined. Sprechen, to speak, is introduced in one of the next lessons. So ist and ist. So ist with two S's and ist with one S is going to sound exactly the same. So do es ist ein Apfel and es ist ein Apfel sound the same. Yes, but you can tell it's es ist ein Apfel. Es ist is ungrammatical. So the accusative of ein Apfel is einen Apfel. Hence it is eating an apple. Translates as es ist einen Apfel. So that's the only time you might really get confused there, but that would the fact anything if it's in the accusative case, that would just clear it up. So of course this only works for masculine. Now other forms will look the same in the nominative and accusative, just what I was talking about. So ist ein Banane, ist eine Banane. Only context will tell you here. So is he eating a banana or is he a banana? Pretty sure he'd be eating a banana, unless he's doing the peanut butter jelly time thing. Now, ich habe Brot. In English, you can say I'm having bread when you really mean that you're eating or about to eat bread. This does not work in German. The verb haben refers to only possession. So hence the sentence Ich habe Brot only translates to I have bread, not I'm having bread. Of course, the same applies to drinks. Ich habe Wasser only translates I have water, not I'm having water. So just saying have bread like you own a loaf of bread. If you're having bread to eat, then you just say ich esse Brot. So conjugation is also slightly irregular. Two forms lose the B. This is Excuse me a second. A little bit of indigestion. So yeah, this is the verb haben, to have. This is the only case where I know where the second and third person loses a letter in this way, because most of them either change or add an extra letter and change their pronunciation. But anyway, that's just a little minor thing. So to conjugate the verb haben, it's ich habe, du hast, sie es hat, wir haben, ihr habt, sie haben. And it's a very useful verb because later on you'll discover that that's how you'll need this verb to form the past tense, just like you do in English. Anyway, let's stop waffling and let's practice. So let's go whenever you're ready, and we'll practice without a timer so that we can concentrate on.
Ich lese ein Buch, sie liest eine Zeitung.
Oh, right, that was quite fast. So
Ich lese ein Buch, sie liest eine Zeitung.
there we go. Ich lese ein Buch, sie liest eine Zeitung. That means I read a book, she reads a newspaper. Or I'm reading a book. Because, as probably mentioned in previous videos, there's no distinction between present and present continuous in German.
Ein Junge isst einen Apfel.
There we go. So, a boy eats an apple. There's just an example of when you'd be able to tell the difference between ist, meaning he eats, and ist, meaning he is. Because the apfel is in the accusative. Ich lese ein Buch.
Ich lese ein Buch, sie liest eine Zeitung.
I've already had that one. I read a book. She reads a newspaper.
Die Männer und die Frauen lesen.
Die Männer und die Frauen lesen. The men and the women read. I read a newspaper. Wie ich lese eine Zeitung. Just as a little aside, sometimes it's not always easy to tell whether a word's masculine, feminine, or neuter in German, but one rule I could tell you off the top of my head: any noun that ends ung is usually always feminine. So just thought I'd point that out to you.
Sie lesen eine Zeitung.
No, I've just had that one. Or something similar. See, what's that again?
Sie lesen eine Zeitung.
Lesen eine Zeitung. They read a newspaper, or can also mean you read a newspaper, because sie, particularly if you capitalize it, is the informal word for you in German. You're reading a newspaper. I'll just show you that an example. Sie lesen eine Zeitung. Or yeah, du liest eine Zeitung. I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but yeah, but if just to say, if you are using sie as the formal version of you have to capitalize it when you're writing it, and when you're speaking it, they can usually guess by context. So let's continue.
Ich esse einen Apfel.
Ich esse einen Apfel. I eat an apple. We are reading a newspaper. Wir lesen eine Zeitung.
Wir lesen das Buch.
Wir lesen Das Buch. Just a reminder that all nouns are capitalized in German, which, trust me, when you're starting out German, that will take a lot of practice. We read, wir lesen.
Die Kinder lesen ein Buch.
Die Kinder lesen ein Buch. So the children read a book.
Ein Mann liest.
Ein Mann liest. A man is reading.
Der Mann isst einen Apfel.
Der Mann isst einen Apfel. So again, just watch out for whether it's nominative or accusative, saying if the man is eating an apple or if he is an apple. She reads a newspaper. Sie liest eine Zeitung. He reads a book. Liest ein Buch. Das Buch is neuter. There we go. So that's very brief introduction to the accusative case. Ooh, excuse me. So yeah, cases I will warn you, they will get more complicated the more we go on. But just please do stick with it. You'll get the hang of it eventually, as I am. So let's continue. We'll go on to the next set of lessons, which are intro. Very weird that it's got intro about 6 or 7 lessons in. But yeah, let's go. Tips. There's no new grammar in this lesson. If you're confused, you can review grammar points from earlier lessons, or you can check the discussions that's available for each sentence. You can reach these when tapping or clicking on the speech bubble. Your question might have already been answered there. Otherwise, you can leave a comment. Right, okay. Okay, that's good. We're not getting any grammar points for this one, which is fine. We can just crack on with the practice. And we'll practice without a timer.
Sie verstehen.
So, verstehen is the verb to understand. So that's they understand.
Du verstehst Deutsch.
Du verstehst Deutsch. That's you understand German.
Ja, ich verstehe. Danke.
Yes, I understand. Thanks. Oh, how have I spelled thanks? Right, but thankfully I just spotted a typo.
Sie versteht Deutsch.
Sie versteht Deutsch. She understands German.
Anna kommt aus Bayern.
So, kommen
Kommt.
is the verb, is part form of the verb kommen, which means to come. So, Anna comes from, but Bayern is Bavaria. Or Anna is from Bavaria, but yeah, kommt aus comes from Bayern. So Bayern Munich literally means Bavarian Munich, the football team.
Kommt.
That's kommt. He comes. He's from Berlin. Kommt aus Berlin. It's good. Berlin is one of those capitals that doesn't really change there's some capital cities change their name in their native language. Berlin doesn't. Just thought I'd throw that in.
Die Frau spricht.
Oh, say that again.
Die Frau spricht.
The woman speaks. No, the woman is comes from Germany. Kommt aus Deutschland.
Die Kinder kommen aus Italien.
Die Kinder kommen aus Italien. That's the children come from Italy. I understand German. Ich verstehe Deutsch.
Ich komme.
Ich komme. Yes, I understand English. Ja. Ich verstehe Englisch.
Du kommst aus Chicago.
Du kommst aus, I think he said Chicago. Yes, he did. Yes, I speak English. Ja, gut, ja. Ich spreche Englisch. He understands. Versteht. Oops, versteht. Yes, I speak German. Ja, ich spreche Deutsch. Oops. I spelled Deutsch correctly. We understand. Wir verstehen. They understand. Sie verstehen. He's called Hans. So yeah, hi. Now remember I was mentioning earlier about this letter, the S set. Here it is here. It looks like a fancy cursive B. It represents a double S. So heißt Hans. I think I'm not 100, but I think there's a lot of German. There's a few. I'm not sure like how strict they are with whether you use the S set or whether you use the double S in things like this. And I don't know how strict they are with it in Germany about using it, but in most cases, if you just use the double S rather than the S set, you'd probably be okay. In fact, well, if I get we come across that with the verb essen, because when I first learned German, I learned essen with the S set, although we only did it for the second and third person because no, sorry, I'm talking rubbish. But yeah, the verb es. No, yeah, I know. Sorry, I know what I was saying. Yeah, yeah, the verb essen. When I first learned German, the essen was written with the S set, and it was esse with the S set. But yeah, you saw on here that it was just with a double S. There. I hope that made sense, because I did just talk a load of. I know it sounded like a load of gibberish there, but yeah. Anyway, so that's the accusative case, and that's introductions. So next video we're going to look at food one. So in the meantime, thanks for watching. Dankeschön. Schönen Tag und tschüss.